Normally, when you see a car that looks like this, you expect it to sound like this. So how is it that we make it sound more like a locomotive than a vintage car? Hey everybody! Well, this is the device that allows your Model A to sound like a train. It's an exhaust whistle. Comes in two parts. You have the whistle itself and you have the exhaust cutout, which we'll talk about in just a second. The whistle itself is made out of 4 tubes of brass of different lengths. It was made by Aermore, is the manufacturer, and it has a patent date of January 23rd of 1912. So we're right at 111 years that these have been around. They were reproduced in aluminum for a while, so there are some out there that are aluminum. As far as I know, they both sound exactly the same. I have an aluminum one somewhere around the property here. I tried to locate it for the sake of this video, but was unable to find it. Somebody in one of the chat rooms recently mentioned that these are now out of production. I don't know if they are or not. I know that they were in the catalogs up until just a few years ago. Maybe COVID put them out of business, I'm not sure. But if they are no longer being produced, this part is still readily available. You can find them on eBay just about any day of the week. So these are still around. There's plenty of them around. You can get these without too much trouble. The prices may have gone up because they may be out of production, but these are still readily available. The two pipe fittings that you see here, the two 90-degree pipe fittings, 1.25 inches, these are optional. And the only reason I'm using these is you can thread this directly to the whistle. But the reason I'm using these two 90-degree pipe fittings is to lower the whistle so that I can mount it flush against the frame of the car. That way I can wrap a couple of pieces of wire around it through the frame and it keeps the vibrations down. The exhaust cutout is the part that has been out of production for decades. And this is the real difficult part to find. There are other cutouts available that work differently, but this one was specifically made for the Model A Ford, and it's the only one I've ever used. The reason you really want to find one of these is that this flange here is manufactured to mate up with the exhaust manifold flange. And this flange here is a duplicate of the manifold flange so that your muffler mounts. And in order to mount this to your car, you use the stock Model A muffler brackets. You need 2 of them instead of just one. You have one that mounts the cutout to the manifold, and you use another one to mount the muffler to the cutout. So you need 2 of these instead of one. This cutout has a butterfly in the middle of it. When you move this lever back and forth, the butterfly moves and it redirects the exhaust gases from going out the muffler to going out the whistle. So these are very hard to find. Every once in a while they're on eBay, but if you find one at a swap meet, be sure and grab it because they're scarce as hen's teeth, and this is the one you really want. The other available cutouts are made to be cut into the tailpipe, not specifically made for Model A's, made for any vintage car. So try and get yourself one of these if you're lucky enough to find one.
Okay, this is what it looks like installed between the muffler and the exhaust manifold. And then the actual whistle tubes themselves are up tight against the frame. I have a couple of pieces of wire holding it tight against the frame to minimize the vibrations and rattling, because they do make a little bit of a rattle. So that's how it's mounted in the car. If you have the original engine pans on your car, then you would have to take off at least the right side because the whistle would interfere with the pans. To activate the whistle, we just pull on this wire which goes through a hole in the firewall into the cab. I just have a finger loop on the end of the wire and I just pull on it, and that activates the butterfly, which Causes the exhaust to go out the whistle as opposed to the muffler. That simple.
One thing I do want to mention about the installation of the exhaust cutout is you are using 2 of the stock Model A muffler clamps, and of course because you have 2 of them instead of 1, you have a much greater chance of having an exhaust leak. So you are going to want to put some kind of a sealant in these clamps to help prevent any type of an exhaust leak. You can use a high temperature silicone, or I prefer to use furnace cement. Furnace cement is available at any hardware store. It's basically a real thick toothpaste like substance that you can cream inside of the bracket. Once you tighten the bolts, it will squeeze out any excess. You can simply wipe it off with a wet rag. It makes a nice clean installation, lasts for a long time, and it's no problem getting the furnace cement off when you need to disassemble it. So use some type of a sealant to make sure you don't have an exhaust leak, because you got twice as much surface area that could lead to a leak.